I'll go by taxi, she said. Never mind, Loha. I'll be back in 4 days' time. Uncle Sam has never killed me. Let me walk you downstairs then. The girl drove him from the palace apartment to Oria International Airport. He had packed a few clothes in a canvas bag and he carried with him the fake passport he used whenever he was on a mission. It was the name of Payer Dominant. He believed in covering his tricks well. His hair had been dyed black and he was wearing a false mustache. His appearance had greatly been altered, but the person and the passport photo matched perfectly. He had leaned eager to book a direct flight to London Gatwick Airport. Although the girl wrote, Lamnant had mentioned that he Lion had long and asked for him. She had not looked upset when he kept quiet. Neither did he ask him where he was going and why. She knew when to ask him questions and when to maintain the silence. Moreover, he always fascinated her and never failed to perplex her. Despite being a boss, she did not really know what he did or where he went whenever he disappeared. The only significant piece of information she had picked up was that he had been a captain in the US Army and that he was in the direct link to the Lion. He had at times disappeared for several months on end and he had on a number of occasions. Since she knew him, came back wounded. If she had any idea of any questions concerning the work he did, she kept them to herself. Her work was to spy for and sometimes admit the lion's powerful enemies. With her beauty blends, she usually succeeded in her assignment. The money was very good and the work went well. She was content with that. As she drove through the busy Paris traffic, she cast a sidelong glance at Brute. Part of his face was illuminated by the glow from the dashboard's light. She wondered for the hundredth time why he had never, in 3 years, in 3 years, they had worked together, asked her to go to bed with him. She was well aware of her own beauty and charm. She knew too that most men did whatever she asked them to do. In short, they ate out of her hand before being trained in hypnosis. She had a successful career with influential men. She had a successful career with influential men, but Blint was a complete mystery to her. She failed to understand how they could sometimes share the same flight without him showing any signs of desire for her. And yet, she knew that he was a romantic man. That was what irked her most. It made her feel as if she was not feminine. She had tried fire hits of her feeling for him, but he had not noticed them. He too kept his feelings to himself. She placed the accelerator down and the car limped forward. She always drove fast when her thoughts were furious. She used only a light hand to drive with. Thinking that Britt was asleep, she reached out her left hand to touch his face. When he did, when he did not stir, she passed her hands from the forehead, nose, mouth, and chin before she quickly withdrew her hand. Brint, Brint, who had watched her own movies from the corner of her eye, waited until she gripped the first moving car with both hands. Then he laughed. A sudden laugh took her unawareness and the car saved so violently she nearly lost control. When she finally brought it under control, she slowed down and parked by the side of the road. Now, why the hell did you want to get her killed? She asked furiously. Sorry, Grant, I honestly did not mean to scare you. I must have been dreaming. Since when did you start dreaming aloud? She demanded. He looked at her for a short while before he said, only someone who's been sleeping with me can answer that question. What a heartless thing to say to a lady, she said as she engaged gear and shot down the road once more. Brent looked at the hard expression she wore. He found it so funny. He could not help laughing again. Are you still dreaming? She asked tightly. As dreamy as I was when you touched my face. Oh, so you were only pretending to be asleep, she said. A note of triumph in her voice. I did not know that even Superman had emotions, she added. He regarded us seriously before he said, they do. Fortunately, they know when to avoid mixing business with pressure. That made her laugh. When shall you ever regard me as me, instead of always regarding me as a business person? She asked. When the time comes, he answered her. Crude could not believe her own ears. She slowed. When the time comes, he answered. Crude could not believe her own ears. She slowed down the car and decided to place her newly found log. And when will the time come? She asked tentatively. When this assignment is over, he answered without hesitation. Some hours, some hours later, he, on the morning of December 5, so still continue this. When the time comes, he answered. Glued could not believe her own ears. She slowed down the car and started to place her newly found log. And when will the time come? She asked tentatively. When this assignment is over, he answered without hesitation. Some hours later, on the morning of December 5, on the morning of December 5, Pan, Pan Airways plane, he was traveling on touchdown at London's Gatwick Airport. He disembarked from the plane feeling very lightheaded and tired. This did not worry him, however, as he was aware that the helicopter had been sent to await for his arrival. It had been somewhere at the airport. He stretched his arching lips and looked around the busy airport. He was still debating whether to pass through the immigration and ask for the helicopter when a middle-aged man, smartly dressed in a navy blue suit, approached him. Most adorned, he asked, as he extended his hand in greeting. His voice had barely a noticeable Oxford accent. Yes, Brent answered in confirmation. Please come with me, the man said as he led the way to where Brent assumed the helicopter was. What about my bag? He asked as he followed the man. That has already been taken care of. You know how efficient your host is. Thank God, Brent explained. I'm so tired and sleepy that I could not have liked any unnecessary delays. Is that the machine? He asked as he pointed to a powerful looking helicopter, which was slightly hidden by the eight-seater cancer plane. Yes, it is. Quite a baby, isn't it? The man asked with a trace of pride in his voice. It sure is, Brent agreed. They reached the helicopter and climbed aboard. The pilot moved his jacket and clamped headphones on his head. He switched on the engine, and the noise in the cockpit made a conversation impossible. Brent looked at the way the man expectedly checked the meters before him. When he was satisfied, the pilot lifted the machine off the ground cleanly. Brent was impressed with the other man's expectance. However, fatigue was slowly overcoming him. He settled back in his chair and allowed himself to be swept away by the sleep. They sat facing one another in Sir Winter's bathhouse. It was literally furnished with ancient looking but imposing artifice that grimaced impressively. The room they now occupied had a wall to wall carpets which had been imported from Arabia by Sir Winter's wife before she died of cancer. It was malt-colored and very thick. They sat in very comfortable sofas, a low table on which were a bottle of deep 12-year-old whiskey, two glasses, a box of rich Capon cigars, and a bucket of ice, and a plentiful of richly spiced sausages separated them. It was early in the evening, and Brent had lasted, showered, and changed. He now wore loose-fitting slacks, sandals, and black leather jacket. Sir Winter poured a generous measure of whiskey in their glasses, added ginger ale and ice cubes before he lifted his glass and savored the drink. He nodded certification and mentioned to Blink to take his glass. Blink did as bade. The two men then lifted up and settled comfortably in their seats. Could you like the sausage, or do you want me to send for something else? The sausage would do fine, sir, Brent answered. Good. They are all my favorite too, Sir Winter said. Okay, it's not easy. Have they made have they made to my taste? Brent nodded. He knew all this, and he knew too that old man liked to use correlations whenever an important issue was to take place.